BioShock is a game that released in 2007, created by Irrational Games who had previously worked on games such as System Shock 2. The game is set in an underwater city called Rapture where you must venture down after your plane crashes above it. The game then follows your adventures through the city as you make choices and interactions with other characters that will affect the story drastically and deepen the way you interact with the game. The development of Bioshock was an interesting one, which basically means it was just a complete mess. Developed by Irrational Games, the game takes most of its inspiration from old dystopian works of writers like George Orwell, and the game series known as System Shock. However, the primary inspiration for the location came from John D. Rockefeller with the idea of man building an architectural triumph against all odds. The history of the primary location of Rapture and the leader of the city, Andrew Ryan, was also loosely based on this general story as well. The development of other themes came less easily. Trying to figure out the protectors and parasites, also known as the big daddies and the little sisters the player has to save, came as a big problem to the team, as they wanted to make the player feel sympathetic towards them. However, the idea of making the parasites small children, specifically little girls, made some of the team uncomfortable. But the lead dev Levine presented ideas from writers like Aldous Huxley and George Orwell, bringing the idea of an overbearing and controlling government who forced this parasite onto the little girls, um, helped ease the team. With the government and the general populace figured out, Rapture was finished and ready to ship in Bioshock. Bioshock is a game that prides itself on its excellent character writing that is directed at you. In game, the player will meet several characters to either help or harm them on their journey, and the protagonist being silent means everything hits all the harder. A silent protagonist basically just means that the controlled character doesn't speak. Now, in the early game, when your guide Atlas tells you to kill off a child for power, it feels like he's directing that at you, the player, planting a seed of doubt that this man isn't as good as he makes himself out to be, which hits all the harder because up until now, Atlas has been helping you and keeping you alive in the dangers of Rapture. In the same scene, you meet a character called Dr. Tenenbaum, who seems to be rather nice and is the one who offers you the non-violent route. Whichever you choose, it feels more personal because she either thanks you or curses you out. To this extent, there is a late game twist that feels once again personal. Bioshock is a linear game. It follows a set path, but within that path you get given choices, which gives the player a feeling of control. This twist strips that away. Atlas reveals you are a sleeper agent who has been controlling with the phrase, "Would you kindly," before trying to kill you. Having the feeling of control and power taken away hits you directly because it feels like the game has just played you. After this, the player feels more on board and completely ready to kill Atlas like the game wants the player to, which brings them in more to the experience and has them more interacting with this experience even more than they would otherwise. Adding on to the excellent writing, killing or saving the children. There's no right answer when you're presented the option. However, the child is begging for its life, so you are more compelled to want to not kill it. But the choice is yours. If you do kill it, the consequences come much later. At the end of the game, you lose the game. The surface is overrun by monsters, and you are held responsible for the actions and the death of hundreds and millions of people because you killed the child. You wanted that little bit more power. So now these people died because of you. And that level of interaction is just something no other game can properly achieve. Now, full disclosure, I have a strong bias towards liking Bioshock, as Bioshock 2 was one of my favourite games and the first shooter I ever played. I then moved on to Bioshock Infinite, also known as Bioshock 3, which still remains one of my favourite games. As I said at the top, I never actually played Bioshock 1 up until now, but I still had a strong disposition to liking it, as I loved the rest of the series. However, there are also people who do not like this stuff. For example, popular YouTuber
Oh,
Pyrocynical
fuck.
has stated several times he finds Bioshock style quite empty and its choices too binary between right and wrong, while the game is just also too easy and boring for him. There are also plenty of people who stand in the middle, who'd like it fine enough, but not feel the same connection to the game as I feel. I personally think Bioshock is an all-time classic in gaming, but that's just my bias and my opinion towards my childhood franchise, and I personally believe that it interacts with me in a way no other game really does, but once again, that is just my bias, and other people are biased to liking different things, which makes my review biased. Bioshock as a game brought multiple choices and endings affected by your choices into the mainstream. It grips you and refuses to let go for even a second by landing every choice at your feet, which is something that no other game could achieve before or really since.